Welcome to the Qargo Training Academy. Here at the Academy, you can find answers to some of our most frequently asked questions, introductory training videos for new Qargo users, and how to set up and use some of the more advanced features of the software. Let's get rolling and see what is on the agenda today. Setting up rate cards for the variety of pricing models of all your customers can be quite a task. There are lots of options available, and the Qargo system gives a lot of flexibility. Today, we look at a pricing model that is based on a price list that is often used by Pallet Networks, which includes multiple tiers of rating parameters. Once we have created the price list, we will generate a transport charge on an order. This type of pricing model is useful if you want to create a single rate card which can accommodate a wide variety of pricing scenarios, including pricing by collection or delivery zones, service level, and quantity of pallets. This will allow orders to be automatically rated quickly and efficiently. In this price list example, we can see there are multiple variables that need to be considered when calculating the appropriate price for a shipment, and the price list is a mixture of fixed prices and prices that will calculate per piece. The price list is broken down based on postcode zones which are labelled. Postcode zones must be set up separately first and then can be included in the calculations. Refer to the user manual article Postcode Zone Groups if you need help with setting these up. Next, there are two service levels, 24-hour and 48-hour, that we need to consider when selecting price, and for a single quantity, the price is based on the packaging type. For multiples between 2 and 5 pallets, there is a fixed price, while for 6 pallets or more, we still consider the zone and service level, which will give the per pallet rate multiplied across the number of pallets. So, as you can see, there is quite a lot going on here. Sounds like we have some work to do. Let's build a new price list. First, let's navigate to the Rates menu and select the Rate Card Customer submenu. Here you will see a list of all the transport services you offer. You can expand each transport service to see the individual rate cards created. This is where you can open the individual cards and make any edits necessary. We are going to create a new rate card, so we will go ahead and click on Create Price List. Next, let's select the transport service we want to create our new price list under. Now we can start to build the price list details. First, we need to give it a name. It's a good idea to use something that allows you to easily identify the price list, like any customers it might be for, or if there are specific details. For this example, we are going to be building a customer price list that has multiple tiers and variables. There. This name should help me identify it easily when looking through the list. Next, I'll set the valid from date. You'll notice the default date is the current date. Let's save the general information and move on to adding the pricing parameters. Each new price list will automatically have a transport charge, so we can simply click the edit icon, this little pencil here, and begin to add our charge parameters. First, I can set my charge to be valid for a specific time frame. For instance, if I routinely update pricing, I can create these prices to all have a valid from and to date, and by clicking Add Collection, I can quickly copy and update the charge, selecting the appropriate action. For this example, let's just set the valid from date. We'll match my price list and move on to adding the calculations. Remember, for my price list, I have to combine multiple variables, like the service level, packaging type and quantity, and postcode zones. In order for me to build this price list, I am going to have to break it down into smaller calculations and introduce some conditions. Because we have these variables to consider, a price table will be the best option here. We need to use the option to multiplied by a metric, as this is the only option that will give us the pallet spaces. Next, I'll select what the metric is that I want to use. Here, I will select the total pallet spaces and packaging. Remember, for this specific set of calculations, I want to look at the type of pallet to determine the rate. Now I have the option showing to edit price table. This is where I can enter all the price data and build my table. Okay, let's build our price table. There are options for up to 3 columns or metrics. It's important to select the metric for the columns first before entering any data in the table. For the first metric, I'm going to select my service level, next we will add the pallet sizes, and finally we will select postcode zones. For the postcode zone, I will need to specify which stop these zones apply to. For this example, let's select last delivery. And finally, let's select the postcode zone group that I want to use. Okay, you can see columns now show on the right, and we have built our metrics table. Now I can enter my specific data. From these drop-down options, I can select what I want to include in my price list. Why not take a quick break while I get these added? All right, we have the details added. The last step for this calculation is to add the rates. Click on the Rates tab and there is a new table. This one includes the metrics from the previous page. In each row, we see the service levels, along with the postcode zones that were added. In the columns, we can see the types of pallets that we can now apply our rates to. Here's a little tip. If you have rates that apply to more than one section, you can copy them by clicking and dragging the frame around all the fields that you want to copy the rate to. Okay, now we have all our rates entered. Let's make sure we click OK. Finally, we will enter the metric quantity of 1 as we are pricing per 1 pallet space. Be sure to click Save on the price list screen. Okay, so we now have the first calculation in our price table that is going to look at the service level and delivery zone, then look at the pallet type to determine the rate to apply on the order. This is the first step in creating our complex price list. Next, we need to identify the condition that will apply specifically to this price list. We are going to use the condition because we will be adding more calculations to the price list, and we need to specify when this calculation should be used. I'll click Add Condition and select the metric. Here, we need to only use this calculation if it is a single pallet on the order. So we will set the condition to be a metric of goods order and pallet spaces is 1. Click Save. So, as a reminder, this calculation is referring to the section of the price list for a single pallet space, based on the specific pallet type and considering the delivery zones and service levels. Now we can move on to creating our next calculation. Our second calculation is going to take into consideration the fixed pricing for multiple pallets, up to 5 pallets. Again, we will need to use the price table option. However, this time we can specify a fixed amount as the output. To create the table, we again will select the service levels, postcode zones, but this time we will include the total number of pallet spaces as a range. This will let us set the ranges up to 5 pallets so we can add the pricing. When using ranges, there are 2 filter options. End exclusive is where the end value is 1 less than the value entered. So if the range was set as 2 to 3, it will cover 2 but exclude 3. 3 is then set as the start value in the next range. End inclusive will include the final value in the range, so if set from 2 to 3, it will include 3. Starting the next tier with the same value will ensure any decimals are accounted for. Now we have the table, we need to add the rates that apply to each of the tiers. In each row, we can see the service levels, 24 and 48 hours, and the postcode zones. In the columns, we can now add the rates that apply to the number of pallets. Once all your rates are entered, click OK. In this instance, we shouldn't need to specify any conditions, as we are only looking to price up to 5 pallets, and the other variables, service levels and delivery zone, is already accounted for in the table. So again, as a reminder, this calculation is looking at the set rate based on the number of pallet spaces, up to 5 spaces only. We can move on to our next calculation, which is going to be for more than 6 pallets. All right, nearly there. Let's look at the next calculation. The final pricing variable on the price list is for 6 or more pallets. Again, we need to account for the service level and postcode zone, so we will use the price table option and we'll be multiplying by the number of pallet spaces on the order as a whole. Let's add the service levels and postcode zone. And we will add the pallet spaces as a range again. This will allow us to enter the starting point of 6 and any default end number that you want to set. I'll use 100. We select the total pallet spaces per order in this calculation, as we want the system to take them into consideration regardless of the packaging sizes. We want to see the order values as a whole. The rates table will now show the rows and columns as before, with just the single column where we can enter the rates. Don't forget to click OK. We will need to add some conditions to this calculation. All right, the last step for this calculation is to add the conditions. In this case, we need to specify that this calculation should be used if the pallet spaces are 6 or more. We'll add the condition metric for goods order and total pallet spaces and set the quantity value as 6. Now, if 6 or more pallet spaces are ordered, the service level is set and the delivery zone is within the postcode zone, this calculation should be used. Let's build an order and check. Okay, here is my order. I have the delivery postcode set to within one of the postcode zones. My service level is set here, and I currently have just one full pallet space on the order. I can see that my order has rated according to the full pallet rate in my first calculation. If I change my full pallet to a half pallet, the rate should update to match what is set there. And there you go, it has updated to the half pallet rate. Now our second calculation was for up to 5 pallets. Let's select 5 pallets and see what happens. If we check our second calculation, we can see that this is also pulling in correctly. Our third calculation is for 6 or more pallets. Let's use 10 pallets. Let's see what this does to the rate. And yes, we can see that this is also pulling in correctly. So we can confirm that our price list is working correctly for these calculations. With this type of complex price list, the options for configurations are vast. For instance, we could mirror these existing calculations, and instead of just looking at the delivery zone, we can include a collection point as well. If collections are from a specific address, this can be added as an additional condition on the calculation. By adding a collection point as a condition, the calculation will be restricted to only orders where the collection condition is met, as well as the delivery condition. So there you have it. We have created a complex price list using multiple calculations and conditions that include service levels, postcode zones, packaging types, and quantities. Our order shows that these individual calculations do update the price on the order based on the different order parameters selected. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed learning a little more about Qargo. Check out the Qargo user manual for more videos and articles and learn what other features can benefit you.